Is up, Bellingham, Washington, and the interwebs. It is your host and the headmaster of the GQAzndood Academy, GQAzndood. Welcome back, students. This is class session 30. It is about to get really hot in this this back room here on the 6th of May of 2025. So I hope you guys had a great week where we have a great show for you guys today. And tonight is extra special because we're celebrating St. Jude's Play Live 2025. If you've been following my channel, we've been doing this charity stream almost every year. Last year I did not partake because I was really busy with life, but normally what we do is we do this for a whole month, and 100% of your donations go to St. Jude's Cancer Research for Children. So it is a great, my personal favorite charity to donate to, just because when I was little, I've always wanted to help out kids and help out others while, you know, doing my hobby. So with that said, let's get this show on the road, and we'll give you more details on how to contribute to this charity and to help out the kids out there, our future young gamers of the future. We'll get the crew here, and we'll kind of go on with this what do you call this packed filled show. Anyway, we're going to be joined by my crew here, BlazingAceNelson and also Tragically Elite, to give us the full details on all the news and the tech. So we also got gaming history for you guys to hit, spicy rumors to break down, and yes, we're still raising funds to help the kids at St. Jude, even though I started I think like 4 days ago. So grab your snacks, get comfy, let's get gaming, let's get this gaming session started. So with that said, let's introduce the faculty here. The first one on docket is my boy Nick from the Tragically Elite band.
Hey, the band. I don't know about that.
Tragically Elite.
the one man band. Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you for having me back. Didn't we just do this like 4 or 5 days ago? What was it? Thursday, yeah. It was called Late for Class because we did not do it on Tuesday. So yeah, that was a makeup session.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're like Trent Reznor, you're like a one man band.
Oh gosh, no!
Gaming.
I wish I was that talented.
Right. Well, there's what is that? The guy that made Lost Souls Aside. It's like one dude, right? So I was like super impressed by that. So that's
yeah. Also, I wish I was that talented.
Yeah, same here. Hey, what's up, Blue? How's it going? Yeah, let's we got a lot going on, so let's move with. Of course, we can. Our PE instructor, Mr. BlazingAceNelson, what up?
Hey, what's good, everybody? Glad to be back.
Yeah, he was couldn't make it last time because, you know, of course we have life to take care of, but he's here now, and that's what's important.
Got to keep the lights on somehow.
Yep. Yeah. How's the week been for you? How's the week been for you, Ace?
It's been pretty solid. Just playing a whole hell of a lot of Expedition 33.
Yeah. It's that game is in the spotlight right now, which I love. I love it.
Good reason.
Yeah, good. That's absolutely right. Yeah, so if you're watching right now on the multiple platforms, you'll see that in the chat, specifically in Twitch. You'll see that St. Jude is in the chat, guys. They're watching. They're keeping track of you. That's not donating. I'm kidding. Donate if you want to. No pressure. Just know that it goes 100% of it goes to the charity. So no worries with that. I wanted to share this image before we get going. This is their marquee image in 2024 for St. Jude, and it's super cool. Like they're all about it. You know, they're kind of like they know that this is a thing, and you know they want more people to do it. And this is like all across Twitch. This is all across like everyone. Like this is a full blown campaign that you could do throughout the year. Actually, you don't have to do it like this month, but I think it's featured around April and May. So if you guys have your own platforms and you guys want to, you know, help out St. Jude's with their play for more than bragging rights, I should have worn that shirt, but I wore it the other day on streaming. But you get a free shirt if you hit like a certain amount, so it's kind of cool. I don't do it to get the free shirt, but they do give you like a care package, which is cool. Like in 2023, they sent me a box of goodies to I guess like to play around on stream. So they sent me like stickers. They sent me like all these like funfetti stuff. So if we hit a certain milestone, we can like celebrate and stuff. So they're super cool. They're all about it. So yeah, with that said, and then I think what I'll do is I'll have this ticker down here. So if you guys are interested in donating, it'll be right there for you guys. That's the link there for you. You can do that whenever you like. But with that said, let's move on to everyone's favorite segment, This Week in Gaming History. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I wish I well, maybe one day I'll do like a Macho Man voiceover, but that would just kill my voice.
Just get the 8-bit one from one of the wrestling games.
With the Macho Man one?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just get that little 8-bit shout.
Yeah. Maybe like WrestleMania, like just some like MIDI. Remember MIDI's, guys?
Yeah. Or grab the Super Nintendo one. That'd be even better.
www.vgmusic.com.
Oh, message. But if it's your first time on the channel, this is a segment of the show where we talk about this week in gaming history, all the stuff that's been released, and all the fun little tidbits that happen throughout time from last Sunday all the way to this Saturday. So we're going to be starting on May 4th. And with that said, let's move on to our first game. Okay. All right, first game that I wanted to feature, since it was May the 4th be with you on that day, I decided to pick Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. This was pretty fun at the time. And this was when LucasArts was still making video games versus like Disney licensing out the game to other, developers. And to my understanding, they had a little like, what do you call this? Like a Easter egg with this game, because they actually had a versus mode, like they snuck in a versus mode in this game. And I don't know if anybody's played this in chat or know about this game. You had to kind of like, it wasn't obvious that the versus mode was in the game, but once you found it, it was like, whoa, this is sick. And I would argue that this is probably a good PS2 version of Jedi Power Battles, right?
Yeah, you can make that argument.
Yeah. But at the time, there was nothing like it. I mean, as far as Star Wars games goes, except, like Jedi Academy is totally different. This game is like totally different. Every Star Wars game was like a specialty, like racing, or like, Rogue Squadron was like, ship battles and stuff like that. So I don't know. Have you guys played game? Yeah. There wasn't, I mean, aside from Terrakasi, there was really no fighting game, right?
No, not really. I think that's why that Easter egg was so cool.
Yeah.
Just because it was like it was just a better version, despite being just an Easter egg, which is crazy to say.
And the thing is, like, it was like an arena fighter, and it wasn't a bad fighting game. Like that I think that's why I wanted to feature it. Like it was just there, but it wasn't like jank. It was actually pretty decent.
Okay. I might be speaking some sacrilege to some people, but as a fan of Star Wars, at least in like my group of friends, Episode 3 itself was my favorite of the prequels by far. Like it's aged better too, in my opinion. So like I'm not surprised that this played well too. Like it got more love than the other ones, I feel like, and the story was just a little bit easier to get into.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this was my favorite Star Wars game aside from Power Battles, because Power Battles was like the top notch at the time.
Yeah.
But what do you call this? Movie wise, I was all about Attack of the Clones. I think like the big battles, I was like, oh, this is so sick. Like that was the thing at the time.
With that in mind, since it is, the day of May the 4th, people in chat, feel free to chime in as well. I'd love to hear it. But for May the 4th, what is your favorite Star Wars game? Across the board.
Well, let's see. My favorite Star Wars game, already mentioned, Jedi Power Battles. Force Unleashed was solid. But
there's some great games in there for sure. But what is your favorite? Like gut reaction first off.
Gut reaction, favorite, JPB. Easy.
He's gonna say Soul Calibur 4.
My favorite Star Wars game is Star Gladiator. Damn
it.
James, what about you? Favorite Star Wars game?
Favorite Star Wars game? I would have to say JPB at the same time, because I remember like I was trying to get a copy of that at Toys R Us for the longest time, and it was always sold out. And like I said, there was nothing like it, so I think that was the most memorable for me, and it held up pretty well at the time. Like I think like I skipped all the other two movies, and I went straight to this one for video game, and I was like, this is like a replacement for Power Battles, right? So I would say Power Battles was my favorite one as well.
Shout out to Tornado Chop in the chat. Jedi Outcast, definitely one of my favorites. I've actually been replaying that the last few days when I'm off work, just because I had that itch again to replay it, and GOG had it on sale for like $2, so I bought that in Jedi Academy, which I also love. My favorite is KOTOR.
Did you see that they're doing a Star Wars collection bundle?
Yeah, they've been doing that kind of thing for a while, but now they have a whole nother bundle.
Yeah, it's like they have a lot. They have like Force Unleashed 1 in there, but not 2. It's like they have
licensing. It's got to be licensing.
Yeah, I mean 2 had all those secret characters that you could fight. It's kind of crazy.
That would probably do it though.
But it has like KOTOR in it, 1 and 2, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, like this is a weird bundle because they chose specific games, not just a whole like mess. Right.
J&G, we're talking about our favorite Star Wars game for May the 4th. Let us know if you have a favorite Star Wars game. Sure. Let's get back to the list. Sorry about that. I just wanted to derail really quick because I love me some Star Wars.
Some other games that came out on the 4th, Ultima Online Renaissance on the PC in 2000. Siphon Filter, The Omega Strain on the PS2 in 2004. That was the runner-up for the game that we're going to get featured today. So Forza Motorsport 2 on the 360, 2007 in Japan. Spider-Man 3 came out on everything in 2007. I think that was 6th gen. Fat Princess, Fistful of Cake, PSP 2010. You'll never see that game come out ever again. And Prey on the PC in 2018, which I think was that the remake, the reboot of Prey?
Yeah.
Okay, because the OG one's 360, right?
Yeah, the OG was 360.
Okay. Yeah, May the 4th with you. What is your guys' favorite Star Wars games? Put it in chat. What was this? What was your first Star Wars game? Well, like move on to the next one.
Oh man, like Star Wars on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
It was not great.
100% same. I think the coolest Star Wars game that I saw was the arcade one, where like sticking the. That was really cool.
When we were working at the castle, there was a Star Wars Trilogy arcade cab, and I remember playing that sometimes on my break too. That really takes you back.
Only pod racing is second to that one. So, all right. So Nick will remember this from our time at the Reset Games here. On the 5th, Wolfenstein: The Old Blood came out on the PC, PS4, Xbox One in 2015. We know this because we did a playthrough together.
Yes, we did,
and it was hilarious from what I remember at all.
If I remember right, I got stuck. I got stuck in the pit. I couldn't get out. It was like a QTE.
I think we were like, when we were talking about this game, like Wolfenstein was typically more like run and gun, but this one was like more slower paced, right? It was a little bit more stealthy. We were infiltrating
the first little bit, yeah.
Yeah, from what I remember, it was like different from what I recall. Because like what's the one before this? Return to Castle Wolfenstein or something like that. It was more action packed. Like, it was more Doom like than this one was. So, I had fun playing it, and actually, I'm looking forward to them like going back to it in some way or form, like they are with Doom, giving it that kind of like Doom flavor to it.
Well, I mean, to be completely honest, this was the reboot of Doom before the reboot of Doom, because it like completely reinvigorated the Wolfenstein like series. I remember loving this series too. I love the re-releases. I didn't like Youngblood as much because it was just more of the same. It didn't change enough for me, right? But I do love those re-releases. Wolfenstein 1 and 2 are some of my favorites from that generation. It was really cool to see them change it from that. I think it was like 2008 one. It had that kind of like ghost dude on the front, Wolfenstein, that I didn't enjoy, like ghost powers and stuff.
Oh yeah. I remember.
Yeah. It wasn't. I don't remember it being a great like reboot or reimagining, but this series was fantastic. But after Youngblood and everything, and not making as much money, maybe the team doesn't have as the same kind of ideas. Machine Games have gone on to do plenty of other things. I would be interested to see them kind of revisiting it, but I think it needs a little more time to breathe. There's not much of a market for it right now, especially with how well Doom is doing. With Dark Ages coming out, it might be a little bit too much, but we'll see.
Yeah, what would be fun is if like Wolfenstein came back like in the future. And then, but like it's or alternate timeline. I think I already did that, but like, they would have to figure out how to reinvent it to kind of like match.
Right. And this whole series, this reboot series did so well with that alternate history. That's one of the reasons I liked it. It's one of the reasons that we were talking about that, what was that other like alternate history one. Turning Point. We were talking about how terrible Turning Point was, and just this did it so much better.
What was my version of it? The one where the Koreans invade?
Something like that. Homefront. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. All right. The other games that came out on the 5th was Einhander on the PlayStation in 1998. That's actually a game I owned, and I have no idea what happened to that game. Plants vs. Zombies on the PC in 2009. Another shooter game that was like a #1 seller in our game store for kids. Here's a game not for kids: Leisure Suit Larry, box office bust and PS. Here, Black Mesa on the PC in 2015. Also, Trek to Yomi came out on everything in 2022, and Citizen Sleeper on the Xbox One in 2022 as well. I got a I got a quote here from Ace. Einhander, what you got for us for Einhander, Ace?
Oh, Einhander was one that hit me out of nowhere because I didn't even know it existed until I went to visit a friend of mine's place. We were chilling. This was 96, 97. So we were we were playing Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Going through doing our thing, and then my friend busts out Einhander, and I'm going,
what is that?
It was literally just a head tilt. Like, what am I looking at here? And then they loaded up in the PS1, and it's that first stage and just that scroll as you're like flying through the city, and I'm just hooked. I am immediately hooked. Like, okay, I'm invested. And then he starts playing the first level, showing off, the different weapons and how you're like swapping between the weapon pods on your jet. And like at first I was invested, and now I'm just like, I got to get this for myself.
I think for me, like the biggest thing that I noticed about this game is that Square doesn't do shmups, right? And so for Squaresoft to make a shoot 'em up at the time, I was like, this is different. And also to have it like the interesting fact that you can like Einhander means one hand, that your ship can grab the weapons off using its claw to use it against them was super interesting. This definitely could use a sequel called Zweihander. That'd be kind of cool, right? So but yeah, I don't know, this is probably in the vault somewhere in Square Enix's title library.
Now I'm legitimately just trying to imagine an Einhander remake, and good God.
I mean, it's kind of like I feel like Einhander is no different than our desire to have our God Hand 2, which would be called God Arms. Right? So I think that would be super cool. But yeah, Chop says, what is it? Chop actually said that he wanted you to stream this on your channel. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I've been considering everything else I've been playing, getting around to Einhander is going to be a little.
It's going to be a hot minute.
Yeah.
Also, real quick, Nick, Black Mesa did that have to do anything with Half-Life or no?
Yes, it did. That was the community like completely redone version of it, like updated because Valve wasn't updating it anymore. It was done by it was called Crowbar, if I remember right. Like, it's been a while since I've interacted with it, but when that came out, it was just kind of like, oh my God, they finally updated it, right?
Is this different than because there's two expansions?
It's different. It's basically a fan-made remake of Half-Life using the same source engine.
Oh, I see.
So it's yeah. So it's basically Half-Life redone, kind of reimagined, but it's like a fan-made remake.
Okay. I was trying to see if this was a remake of, because I played the expansion to Half-Life called Opposing Force, where you were the soldiers trying to stop Freeman. So I thought it was like they remade that. Okay, got it.
No. Yeah, not quite. Yeah, it's really cool because like in the original game, you still played Gordon, right? But it actually almost identically follows the Half-Life storyline, but the things they like tweaked and redid kind of like flesh it out a little bit more, which was really cool. As someone who's a fan of the games and the universe, it was really nice to see what the team were able to do with it, like build it out, make it feel more lived in, kind of update it. Because one of the best things about the Half-Life series was like the way you felt immersed in that world, especially after Half-Life 2 made you feel like really immersed in City 17. This was cool to like go back to the OG and like really feel like you were in Black Mesa.
Yeah. I think a lot of people feel that way about like remakes. They just want to see their like old classic characters and stages and like newer graphics, right?
Yeah. Tenero Chops in chat calling out some good stuff. They added some extra stuff to it too, but really having that like HDR in it, refresh rate updates, it was pretty cool.
I mean, that's why Oblivion's actually doing so well. You know, people want to see their favorites. You know, people really want to see their favorites with a new coat of paint.
And it still sells. If it's a good game, it still is, right? Also, in 1980, Ken and Roberta Williams released their first computer game, an adventure called Mystery House. It was only available in 4 stores in LA County, and they transferred the software personally. Imagine being your own company with you and your wife, and then you only had like 4 stores to send your games in, but you had to deliver those games. Kind of crazy. Also, the game was released under Online Systems, which went on to become Sierra Entertainment. There you go. Backstory. All right. Next one. 5.6. We got Bound by Flame on the PS3 and PS4 in 2014. Yeah. So if you want Dragon Age at home, this is definitely, you're like living in the attic. Like this is it. So I rented this while I was working at the old game store here, and I rented it for the PS3 because I didn't have a PS4 at the time. Right now, my I think my inventory manager at the time, she had rented it for PS4, and boy, the performance vary on both systems. So hopefully you have the PS4 version up here, because the PS3 is hot trash. The PS3 one ran barely at 20 frames a second. Right, so it was rough. You can tell it was made for PS4 because I then re-rented it on the PS4 when I got a PS4, and it ran just fine. It ran smoothly, 30 frames, 45, right? I don't think 60, but it ran really well on the PS4, but I think they just failed to optimize it on the PS3 because it was dog doo-doo on the PS3. Right? Yeah, it was bad. It was unplayable, guys. Like, if you had bought it for the PS3, you had to refund it. It was unplayable. It was terrible. But yeah, Bound by Flame is pretty simple. You're like you're a hero. Then you get cursed by like some devil, and then they like take over. You're like your spirit that's inside your body, and he gives you powers to enact your revenge, right? And so this game has a morality system, just like a lot of the other games that are out now, where if you decide to be good, your powers alter in some way. But if you decide to be bad, the devil like increases your powers, you get more stronger, right? Usually with fire spells to kind of display that you're evil, right? So it's very interesting. It plays very similar to like I would say Inquisition, or I would say Inquisition, or what's that? Kingdoms of Amalur. Similar to that. Yeah. So it wasn't a bad game. It definitely is not a full AAA title, right? But it was.
One of the reviews that I'm reading. First off, the reviews for this freaking hilarious. But one of them called it a discount Witcher, and I could see that looking at the combat. Just to throw this sentence in really quick, Brittany Vincent of Destructoid wrote back in the day, "It's rough around the edges, a discount Witcher by many counts, but it also possesses a certain degree of playability that I find devoid in other more polished outings. And for that reason, despite its many confusing design decisions and mechanics, I commend developer Spiders on a job medium well."
Spiders medium well back then. I'm telling you, man. If they were like, you guys only have a $500,000 for a game, they cooked with that money.
I'm in.
That money. And here's the thing: you can tell when a game doesn't have enough budget, because it like you want to play it and you want to like continue it. This is how I felt about this game. And at the end of it, I was like, I wonder if they're gonna make a part 2. Did this game sell good enough? Because it was that good enough for like how much I paid for it, right? Like,
what was that animation? Was that supposed to be an assassination and he whiffed? Like,
yeah, it's very gentle. There's no like cathartic feel to like the
gentle caress assassination. Oh no.
All right, other games on the 6th, because I can spout Bound by Flame all day. I'll stand for those games. MDK on the DOS in 1997, Blaster Master on the PlayStation in 2001, the game that ends friendships, Mario Party 3 specifically, N64 in 2001, Dot Hack -- Mutation Part 2 on the PS2 in 2003, EVE Online on the PC in 2003, Day of Defeat on the PC in 2003. I actually, wow, that name brought me back. PTSD. Castlevania Aria of Sorrow on the GBA in 2003. A game that Ace doesn't play, Samurai Warriors on the PS2 in 2004, and Hades 2 on the PC in 2024. Also in 2009, 3D Realms fires its entire development staff due to lack of funding right in the middle of prolonged development of a game. Oh. Can you guess which game it was?
Gotta be Duke Nukem Forever.
Give this man a gold star. Yeah, hence why it was delayed like a long time. So
that's pretty crazy though. Mid-development, ran out of funds, just fired his entire dev staff.
That's just rough.
Yeah,
this day in history, folks.
got an email that morning. Was like, "Ooh, it's gonna be a rough day."
Hey, man, don't come in today.
Yeah, exactly. You know that game we're working on? Just scrap it. Scrap it. So, I see here. All right, Ace, tell us about this game called Samurai Warriors.
This little known title.
Little known, but when Samurai Warriors came out, it was around the same time as Dynasty Warriors 4. So, Dynasty Warriors had still pretty much established itself as like, the only arrow in Koei's quiver at the time. They didn't really not much else had really come out then that was like comparable to Dynasty Warriors. But then, Samurai Warriors drops, and at first I kind of think, wait. Like I see the box and I'm like, is this a budget Dynasty? Is this a budget Dynasty Warriors that someone's trying to copy, but in Japan? And then I actually look at the box and it's like, oh no, they actually made this.
Yeah.
So we pick up the game, try it out, and it plays. It feels like what they did with Samurai Warriors, in part, led to Dynasty Warriors 5, because the speed of the game feels like in between 4 and 5. It of course, introduced a lot of us to more of the Japanese historical figures like Mitsuhide Akechi on the screen right now, or Yukimura Sanada. And of course, Samurai Warriors 2 comes out a little bit later, and that's what helps lead to the Warriors Orochi crossover. So we wouldn't have Koei Tecmo Endgame without Samurai Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, my first experience with Samurai Warriors was like pretty exciting, because I was like, oh man, like Dynasty Warriors, but in Japan, right? Samurai Warriors. And do you remember which Dynasty Warriors we were on when this game came out? Was it 3 or 4?
It was 4.
It was 4. Okay. And I think mentally I was like, oh no, they're back to the first one. So I thought of like Dynasty Warriors 2, right? So I wasn't thinking properly at the time, but this game actually like felt more fluid than most Dynasty Warriors games. It was stiff in some ways, but like it is like the first iteration, and they were trying to make it a little bit different than the regular Musou.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I remember, it still felt good. It still felt good to play, and it ran really well. And this is hopefully there's a video of this online. I want to see the progression on how many visible characters they actually made with each game. Because if you watch the PlayStation era of Dynasty Warriors from 2 all the way to what, like 6,
mm-hmm.
right? like you can see that like the graphics were getting better, it was getting more optimized, and there were like more visual characters that you can hit on a screen at the same time as the game progressed, but they weren't on different hardware. They were just making the game better. Like they were just getting better at their job, which is cool.
Yeah, right. Better optimization.
Yeah.
Resources, cool. finding ways to trick the system into putting more on. The best way I found is just watching after Ace is on here talking about it all the time. I put up some videos in the background of like Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors over time, just like a comparison. Like someone would play through the series, compare them, contrast them. You can really see the differences even in the same engines on the same generation, like you were saying. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. No, it's wild. Like the first game that I think of about maximizing like skill and talent, Final Fantasy 12. I don't know how they made that voodoo magic on the PS2, but that game was amusing for what it was. So it's crazy. Like 10 was great, but 12 I was like, man, this is amazing. You squeezed out every power on the PS2 with this thing. Pretty great. So all right, go on to the 7th here. All right, so I don't know if anybody's heard of Shakedown Hawaii, but that game came out in 2019, physically I think too, because it was a digital title before, but then they actually started making physical copies of this game. I know the one on the Wii exists, but this game is actually kind of hard to find. It kind of has a weird story because this game is supposed to be Grand Theft Auto, but in the way it was originally designed, like with a top-down view, like the OG GTA.
Yep.
And so it was like an homage to GTA, while honoring the old school GTA, right? So because it was a more modern title. First of all, chat, have you guys played Shakedown Hawaii or ever heard of it? No, nothing. Okay. Room. All right.
Yeah, no, I've heard of Shakedown Hawaii, and it wasn't quite my thing, but I mean,
I'm always cool with top-down pixel art games. Like I love the stuff, right? But you can tell what they were going for here. Oh, Blues played it. Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't quite my thing, largely because back when I first heard of Shakedown Hawaii, yeah. I was, already playing another, pixelated top-down classic, aka Death Road to Canada.
Had a real estate, but by the way, Death Road to Canada is fantastic, and I would love for you to do a playthrough of that with all your friends as being the characters,
otherwise known as the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, that's another one too. But yeah, this game for what it is. If you were to play the OG GTA at its top form, this would be it. That's all I can say about it. It's just arcade-ish fun. Blue says there was a real estate like feature in it as well, so I think that's super neat. Look at this artwork; it's super cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool update to it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of was it Retro Rampage DX?
Yes,
but that one flexing though.
Yeah,
and doesn't that look like Super Macho Man on Punch Out?
Oh, that's pretty fun.
Yeah. All right. Some of the games that came out on the 7th. If anybody in chat knows what Palamedes 2 Star Twinkles on the NES in 1991, you deserve a gold star and a half because that is an obscure game. Also, Wuthering Waves on the Android came out in 2024. May 7th was not a big day for gaming, that's all I can say. But in 2024, Roundhouse Studios, I wonder if Chuck Norris is the CEO, that'd be great. A continuation of Human Head Studios and Arcane Studios, co-devs of Dishonored, are both shut down after the poor release of Redfall. They didn't even make it outside of the year. The game came out, they were like, it's bad, and they shut them down.
Damn.
Yeah.
You weren't playing around.
Cut bait.
Yeah. Oh, there's that real estate portion. That's cool. Chop says it looks like a top-down shooter in the arcade. I must play it. Yeah, it does have like Smash CD feel to it, right? So that's kind of cool.
But I do dig like the depth of the pixel animation too. Like it's well done. Like it's not. I looked up a screenshot of Retro Rampage DX, which is also fun to play, but that definitely sticks in like the old school like bit kind of look to it. This one was like updated.
Yeah. This is like 32x graphics, you know, like back in the day. Let's see here. No, this see that this is what I love. Chop has never heard of this. He sees it on our show and he goes, "No, I want to play it." I love that. I love that. All right. Another game that you should love is Raging Justice. That was released in 2018. Now, I'm going to ask the panel, specifically Ace, have you played Raging Justice? Because it is a beat 'em up.
No.
Gee, I wonder why. So, but yeah, so Raging Justice. You play with it already? There you go. Is like modeled just like those old school Midway games, right? Like Batman Rampage. Forever. Yeah, like Batman Forever, Rampage, right? What was it? Judge Dredd was another one that looked like this. So this is the charm of the game, right? This is the way the graphics and the aesthetic is. Have that like 90s arcade brawler. And if you look at it, it is very like they're trying to do this like, you know, post-apocalyptic RoboCop aesthetic world, right? Crime is a thing, and your guy is like a cop, is like supposedly like John McClane of the force, and then you have the partner and also like some kid that they just picked up and started joining them. It's a really awkward story. Yeah, like Narc, absolutely, and Pit Fighter. Yeah, this is the charm of this game. I definitely picked this up for like $6, and the moment I played it, like at first I was like, what is this trash? Like honestly, but then I was like, oh my god, it is just like those old school beat 'em ups back in the 90s that you were playing. So and then once that clicked in my head, I was like, this game is actually pretty cool.
I don't know what it is about the art style or what, because I can see the old school brawler like Fatal Fury comes to mind for me, but I'm getting this like with some of these graphics, it's giving me this feel of like Redneck Rampage, like this like the cheesy, right? There's something off about it, cheesy, like too realistic for the setting, kind of. It's just weird to me.
You want to know what this is giving me vibes of? I mean, of course, now that you mentioned it, yeah, Redneck Rampage, but also just looking at the screen, it kind of gives me that Super WrestleMania vibe.
It's the animations.
Yeah, they're a little stiff. Kinda, yeah.
I was gonna say like it kind of gave me like Clay Fighter vibes.
Oh yeah, I could see that too. That kind of like it almost feels like stop motion without like jerky
and they're like,
it is.
And the models like maybe they were like clay at some point. The way they look, so. Pretty interesting. But yeah, check it out. Get it when it's on sale. If you like beat 'em ups, it's definitely a pretty fun game for what it is. There's a lot of
congratulations.
Yeah. See, there's stuff like that that's in there. That's really great. All right, on the 8th here, we got Myst 3 Exile on the Mac and PC in 2001. Another Dot Hack game, GU Volume 2 Reminisce on the PS2 in 2007. Driver 76, who could forget about that, and on the PSP in 2007. And a game I wish Sony would bring back in some way or form, Starhawk on the PS3 in 2012. Arcana Heart 3 Love Max with 4 exclamation points, because apparently you need exactly 4 exclamation points to prove this point. Came out in the arcade in 2013. Conan Exiles on the PC, PS4, and Xbox One in 2018. And in our little buddy here, Raging Justice. Look at this art right now. Look at the masterpiece.
Populate, copy paste, copy paste.
Yeah. Look at the guy that's in front of the bartender to his left. Is he just like doing the peanut butter dance? Right. So this game is rad for what it is.
I'm pretty sure this is the origin story of like the Borderlands, like Pandora. Like they're all going to become just shitty mobs you got to kill.
JGR Animation said that's what most games have, mostly focusing on realism, but they forgot about the charm. You're right. All right, on the 5.9, the game featured here is Strafe. Came out on the Mac, PC, and PS4 in 2017. Nick, I feel like you're a type of guy that would play Strafe.
I could play Strafe. I didn't. I think it was one of those ones like it came out and I was really interested in it. I just never got around to playing it. And then by the time like my backlog kept filling up, I'm like, I've got all these other games to play, kind of thing. It just kind of came out at that time. But yeah, it's definitely a game I'd play, but especially like old school shooters, like this kind of fast moving kind of thing. It's something that like scratches somewhere in the back of my head. I've been playing a lot of like build games again lately. Like Ace and I have been talking about that because we're big fans of Rise of Triad. This is like, you know, that pixel update. There's been a couple games lately that have kind of like rolled the same aesthetic, but for some reason I'm not good at it, and it's not something I go for all the time. I miss like the fast, speedy twitch clicks of like the Quake and Unreal games. Or no, Unreal, not Quake. But
hey, Quake Arena was pretty twitchy.
It was twitchy, but just like more of the Unreal. I love. It's part of the reason I really got into Halo to start in the multiplayer, when you'd have like the announcer call shit out when you do stuff like headshots and stuff. Like there's something about that dopamine hit that I get. So this is definitely a game that's like will click that dopamine somewhere in the back of my head. I just never got around to playing it.
Yeah, and I think also this was one of the first games to kind of bring this like genre back, and there's like a lot of them now. Because I can remember, like, you know, right now the other one I can think top of my head is Bolt Gun, which is like the Warhammer version of this,
which is I think is actually one of the free games on PS Plus right now.
Is it? That's super cool. I would definitely try to play that, but it has this aesthetic, but with a Warhammer like, you know, aesthetic to it as well. But yeah, this is one of those games where like older graphics but modern controls. You know, it doesn't play like Duke Nukem 3D. So it's you know, if you can get it for free somehow or play it at a discount, and if it's not like you know, not your forte, you know, try to get it as a demo if there's one available. So give it a shot. Give it a shot. See what I did there?
Oh Lord.
Other games that come out on the 9th, Medieval 2 on the PlayStation in 2000. Another obscure first-person shooter, Brink on the PC in 2011. Injustice 2 came out on your mobile phone in 2017. Yeah, I didn't see that one coming. Salt and Sacrifice on the PS5 in 2022 in Japan. And Little Kitty Big City came out on everything in 2024. I know a lot of streamers are playing Little Kitty Big City, but if you guys don't know what Salt and Sacrifice is, it's like a 2D Dark Souls game. Super, super cool. All right. Move on to our last day here on the 10th. This is the 10th. Well, I don't know if you've been living under a rock, but Minecraft is a thing, and that came out on May 10th on the web.
Jesus, that game is 16 years old.
Browser and your PC in 2009. And I remember a buddy of mine when I was working at Men's Warehouse. He was like, "Dude, you play Minecraft?" I was like, "What is that?" He's like, "It's just like Legos." That doesn't sound fun. Yeah, like what else you got for me? You know, like tell me more. You know, and it's still going. As a matter of fact, they just made a movie which took 16 years in the making. So and I think Nick, you said this was the highest selling game, like most copies. Is that what you I think I remember?
It's up there, if not the most.
Yeah. I mean, it's
far because there's so many versions. It goes across so many different age groups too, and a lot of content creators too. I remember back, you know, when Rooster Teeth was putting out Minecraft videos and how much those took off right around then too. You had Let's Builds, all kinds of stuff. Like there's a whole community that popped up around this game.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but I just never got into it. And I know this is a lot of people's chill game. They just jump on and they chill out and they play this game, right? And I think at the time when I was like, when it was peak Minecraft, when it just got released on console, the argument was, why would I play this if I could play Dragon Quest Builders? You know, you guys remember Dragon Quest Builders?
Oh yeah,
yeah. So I was like, you know, the graphics are better. Like I get the point of Minecraft, but the graphics are better. There's like a story to it.
So I did look it up.
Yeah.
And like Andre says, you know, respect earned, respect given. Grand Theft Auto 5, as we know, being this juggernaut that it is, has sold 210 million copies in its lifetime. Minecraft has sold over 350 million.
Yeah, and also I think that's not like, it's kind of obvious because it's all ages, right? Versus like mature rated games, I guess. Like that helps, you know.
Well, and I just like what this set off for Microsoft too, like investing in it. I remember when they were talking about the HoloLens before they
that was cool.
that. It was really cool. Like they'd show the person like looking down at this tabletop and then boot it into the Minecraft world. You can play it on like a tabletop at your virtual world through your HoloLens. Like that was badass. I really wanted it for that. I remember after watching so many people play it and like discover things in this world, I bought it and downloaded it and played around with it for a while too. It's definitely not one I put a ton of time in. I thought it'd be something like my wife and I could play together, but she just wasn't into it. She didn't like how slow it was, that you just built everything. Like there's definitely a vibe and a reason people enjoy it, but it isn't for everyone.
Yeah. And yeah, it's my girlfriend too does not like this game because she says like she hates building stuff and working on things, and like she hates Stardew Valley because she doesn't like the upkeep of like her the gameplay pretty much. She doesn't like it.
Yeah.
It's like why would I do that when I can go slay demons and stuff? And I was like, I knew I liked you for a reason. Other games that came out on the 10th here, the biggest day, King's Quest 1, Quest for the Crown game on the Apple II and PC in 1984. Panzer Dragoon Joie got a lot of, got two German words in this podcast today, Einhander and Joie, on the Saturn in 1996. But boy, do you own a copy of Britney's Dance Beat on the PS2? I know I don't. That also came out on the Custom Robo on the GameCube in 2004. I know a lot of people wanted that at the store when I worked there. Future Tactics: The Uprising on the GameCube, PS2, Xbox in 2004. That one was like, I saw that box everywhere. When I was like sorting games, I always see this box. It's like this like yellowish gold box with green and has got military guys on it. It is ingrained in my brain what that box looks like. Also a little small game from Capcom that no one ever bought. That's why it's $300 a copy, Haunting Ground on the PS2 on 2005. Virtua Tennis 4, our featured song for the intro of the podcast on the PS3, Wii, and 3.
That had better music than I remember then.
It was really good.
That Virtua Tennis got some hype tracks.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, the Dreamcast games, like the Sega games, they got some good music. A lot of people don't know that, right? So it's pretty good. Uncharted 4, A Thief's End on PS4 in 2016, Dead Cells on the PC in 2017, and I snuck this one in, A Eiyuden Chronicle Rising, which is the prequel to 100 Heroes War, came out on everything in 2022, the spiritual successor to Suikoden.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to call it, because we were talking about Strife a little bit earlier, but it popped into my head and I wanted to mention it on the podcast just because it was something where you might like the aesthetics. We talk about how we like a lot of that retro aesthetics, that kind of 80s, 90s kind of thing. A buddy of mine was playing this game on Xbox, kind of the same kind of Twitch shooter kind of feeling vibe to it, but it was like, I loved it. It's called Mullet Mad Jack.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, I heard about it too.
If you haven't played this game, you absolutely need to.
It's a coordinate shooter, right?
I had so much fun playing this. We basically have like 10 seconds to live, and you have to kill to keep your life going, and you can do unlocks, kind of like a roguelite kind of vibe to it. But just the opening alone, if you like 80s movies and that kind of like the tongue-in-cheek take on it, like this is absolutely hilarious. It's right up my alley, and I'm so happy he showed me.
Oh. Okay.
Oh yeah,
it's got a little bit of Snatcher in it, right? Like the
yeah, a little bit of that like cyberpunk-ish, like future retro Japan kind of like tie-in to. Like it's a blast to watch, and I like we were talking about Strife and Twitch kind of stuff. Like I was watching him play a little bit, and then I went home and had to play it. It's that same kind of thing where you're just straight like rushing against time. You got to keep going. You can't stop. And it was a blast, and I really dig the aesthetic of this. It's really funny. So shout out to this game.
If they ever made Crank the movie into a game, this would be it.
With the retro futuristic 80 vibe, this is it.
It's like Crank meets Hardcore Henry.
Yeah. No, and another thing that looks super cool, like clearly they're doing a parody of like Twitch with this thing that they're going with. But like imagine if the audience chose like which room that opened up for you and stuff like that, right? And just, either trolled you or supported you. I think honestly, like I said, I feel like some developers will have to start considering that because streaming has been so mainstream that like to have another level of experience in your games, and why would people would buy your game is because they want to stream it and then have their audience participate, right? So I think that's
exactly
like
you know, like Super Smash.tv.
.com, like
yeah.
you said.
Anyway, had to bring that up before we moved on.
Awesome. Well, that, folks, is our This Week in Gaming History. All right. Well, we got lots of news coming up here, but I'll let Mr. Tragic Leet here do his thing with quick bites in the rumor mill. Cha-cha, let's go. What you got for us?
Cha. Oh man. So just to preface this, we did do our thing on Thursday, where our makeup class. And I don't know about you two. Looking at the news and stuff, there wasn't a lot going on, right? Well, today. Sharon just have to put it on in the background because the biggest news of today, we're leading off with this, is talking about the second trailer for Grand Theft Auto 4. If you haven't watched it yet, we're here to talk about it a little bit.
You mean the second trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6?
Sorry, yes.
Man, how far back we going?
Great start, Nick. You missed it after 18 months of basic silence where rumors are running wild. Everyone's speculating when this game is going to be coming out. We got GTA 6's second trailer. Shadow dropped today. Obviously, they just announced that it was being delayed. Have you two had a chance to check this out?
I personally have not.
Ace? Have you checked out the trailer yet?
No.
Okay. Well, it's going to be looping in the background. Highly suggest you check it out if you're a fan of this. Check it out for yourself, everyone in chat, if you haven't.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you've seen, like, YouTube right now, the algorithm is going wild. There's tons of people picking apart details in this already, right? Every single little tiny morsel that we get for this. Rockstar is bringing back butts and sexy people. Like, this is what we're doing. We're back, everyone. We got it. We got our movies and our ripped jacked dudes. Like, we're ready to go. GTA is back. Nonetheless, we got some details on the plot. We got to see a lot of details about some of the car designs, the clothing details. You could see the two dual protagonists with different hairstyles, facial hair. Like, there's a lot going on in this. I won't try to break it all down right now, obviously, but this is just something we wanted to lead off with. It has dropped, and if you haven't checked it out, you should. It's going to lead to a little bit of what we're going to talk about later with an article, but I wanted to make sure we mention it because, again, things didn't really kick off till this morning. I had like a couple bullet points and then rapid fire. We got the GTA 6 second trailer, right? And this has just been going crazy for everyone lately. But it also a little bit of news dropped since it is such a good day. We did finally learn Bungie has detailed a bunch of new stuff about the next phase of Destiny 2. So it's still around. It's still moving forward. They are starting with a bunch of new gameplay and story details. You can look that up online. It was this was the project that was previously known as codename Apollo. So the Edge of Fate expansion kicks off the Year of Prophecy on July 15th. The story looks to focus on the group known as the Nine as players head to the planetoid Kepler, which features a singularity and is covered in dark matter. They also kind of dived a little bit deeper into more of like the life after Final Shape content. So they teased an overhaul of the armor system with stat reworks and set bonuses, aiming to make it less confusing and more of an active part of like build crafting. So that's kind of a nice change. There's going to be a new event home feature, which launches alongside the new heavy metal PvP mode that launches on May 9th. A new raid is set to launch 4 days after the expansion, bringing out a new race. And the next expansion, known as Renegades, is heavily inspired by Star Wars. If you haven't watched that release trailer, I highly suggest it. There is there's a lightsaber in it, as well as some great Star Wars sounds. It actually looks really good, which is just a tease for now, but they've been building on this for a little bit. They did a Star Wars collab back in February of this year, so we've definitely seen it before. The last little bit of information they shared was that the Solstice event is returning back for the summer. They're doing ocean-themed holofoil weapons to collect, so if you're still playing Destiny, you got to collect all those shiny skins. This is the way to do it. Oh, and the exotic No Land Beyond is finally coming back for all the people that have been clamoring for it for a while. But it looks like you can only get it from the Ultimate Edition. So you do have to buy that. So I'm going to lock that behind it.
Hasn't changed.
Right. On Monday, if you missed it, Mike Crump, the studio head at the Coalition, posted on Xbox Wire that Gears of War Reloaded is coming August 26th, 2025. And that's coming to not only the Xbox platforms and PC, it's also coming to Steam and to PlayStation 5 on the same day. So the big news is that it's only going to be $39.99. It's also going to be day one on Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass, and will feature 4K support, 120 FPS, in addition to cross progression and cross-play across every platform. The biggest issue that a lot of people have with this, rightly so, is this is only the first Gears game. It's not a collection. So we were kind of hoping there was going to be a collection that was going to be coming out, and there was a lot of rumors about it, but no, it's just the first game. It will have multiplayer in it, though, so I know that was kind of on the rumor mill. 12 days in, and Clear Obscure Expedition 33, as Ace was talking about playing so much of, continues its sales rush as they just passed 2 million copies sold.
Awesome.
Days. So shout out to that team. That also runs parallel to another game that launched right about the same time, Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered. Also just 2 weeks in, the game is already 2025's third best-selling game already. So that has shot up charts. Like you were talking about, games that people love are going to definitely keep selling. Starbreeze has bought the rights, the publishing rights to Payday 3. So if we don't remember, that game did not release to great reviews. It was a little bit unfortunate because a lot of people were looking forward to that coming back. But using Class B shares valuing about $3.4 million, looks like they got those publishing rights back. They look to kind of push broader biz opportunities and speed up content development, but there's no real clue as to, like, are they going to continue with Payday 3 with where it's at? Speaking of a long time, over 30 years, in fact, we haven't seen Echo the Dolphin, have we, folks?
Nope.
Its creator shared in an interview that we're getting a new Echo the Dolphin game, and the first two titles are being remastered. My Sega-soaked childhood is super hyped. Ace, you're making a look. What do you think of that?
He hates dolphins.
Oh, no.
I'm just speechless. Like, hearing that Echo the Dolphin is getting, is starting to get some attention again, it hit me in like the same way it did when I heard that Tomba was getting a remake. I'm just like, really?
I was just thinking of something. How fun would it be if they did another Vector Man, but Vector Man stayed the same graphically, but then like his enemies and backgrounds were like modern day graphics? That'd be kind of a fun game, right? Yeah, that'd be kind of a fun thing. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, hey, Andre, thank you for doubling up on that, man. We were just talking about it. So good. Sad news is more layoffs have kind of been confirmed in the industry this week. Now this one being at Codemasters. The studio has been producing rally and racing games for years. But after EA announced they're putting all rally games on hold, the dev team is impacted and trying to evolve. More sad news. Sorry, Chrono Trigger fans. But after Gematsu sorts the footage from the panel at the Naples Comic-Con, it's confirmed that Dragon Quest creator Yuji Horii did not mention a remake being in the works. This was a misinterpretation fueled by speculation over the last couple weeks. So a remake for Chrono Trigger is not happening. Sad. Epic Games is kind of seeing the writing on the wall in the industry. If you weren't here on Thursday, we were kind of talking about the industry, where it's going based on Alana Pierce's video. Definitely check out the VOD for that if you haven't. Really interesting stuff comes up and kind of boils into what we're doing this week and what we're chatting about in the news. But Epic Games may be seeing the writing on the wall with AAA titles in development by changing their operating model with their store. If you didn't hear about this, this is very recent. It seems like in a bid to encourage more indie studios and smaller projects to kind of release their content on their store. They're going to be changing up the way the revenue share works. So from June 2025 forward, any store payments that are processed on there will take 0 revenue share up to the first $1 million in sales. After that, the 88%, 12% split kicks in. So that first million will go straight to the developers.
I like that.
Steam also recently changed up its split to kind of favor devs a little bit more too recently, but Epic is making this move in addition to adding web shops for developers. The goal here being to offer out-of-app purchases to get around in-app fees that devs have to pay on platforms like Apple and Google. So it's just a very interesting bid to try to kind of like pull in some smaller teams, some different devs, and get more stuff on their store. We'll see if that ends up working, but it's just an interesting thing that comes up and we're talking about on the news.
Also, I don't know if you noticed, but Fortnite is back in the Apple Store. So
really, I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
those app fees, man, they're coming for you. They're coming for your wallets. This month's PS Plus lineup has gone live. Worth mentioning, we don't usually cover it, but we haven't brought up anything with our gaming deals lately, so I thought it was worth throwing this on here because one of the Game of the Year candidates is on the list. Players are getting access to Ark Survival Ascended, Warhammer 40k Boltgun, and Balatro. So these will be available until June 2nd. So there's our little gaming deals for folks. And a call out again that Balatro is going to be available, which was a huge hit at this year's VGAs. 2 rumor mill items for you folks. Just a quick one. We're going to go right off the bat. Again, grain of salt on all this, just kind of rumors we're seeing around. Try to verify as best we can, but it's worth bringing up for some discussions, see what people in chat have to say. I can see Andre over there chatting about stuff. Jim Balatro, absolutely. Thanks to XOX Leak, we have seen a leaked image revealing that Overwatch 2 and Street Fighter 6 are working on a collaboration via mid-season stadium event. So we'll have to see if this moves the needle at all for fans, but it looks like we're getting that crossover. And what do you think about that? Ready for some Street Fighter?
Yeah. I mean, they did just do a Gundam Wing Overwatch crossover.
Ace. Gundam Wing? Come on. Give me G Gundam and Street Fighter. I will play that.
How you doing?
No matter what I do, I can't get away from Half-Life 3 rumors. If you haven't been on the internet this last week, even more things have happened. Jackson Chen over at Engadget had published an article on May 3rd stating that Half-Life 3 is reportedly playable in its entirety and could be announced this year. Speculation comes from Tyler McVicker, known for reporting Valve rumors, who has stated this during his latest live stream. Like Chen's article states, there have been multiple other hints at potential progress on Half-Life 3 for a while, and obviously there's been no official confirmation from any Valve sources, so a massive grain of salt. But what do you two think about that? Is Half-Life 3 existing, and if it is, it's playable in its entirety already at this point?
That's
Are we going to see it?
Like
that is a crazy way to market a game if that's what you're going for. You know,
right?
Just saying, hey, it's pretty much ready to go.
If they really just care about the game and really like people want to play it and not the sales, I think it's fine. But I feel like Half-Life 3 deserves the hype, deserves, you know, the anticipation.
So all of this leading to our article for tonight. So I wanted to bring this up because I think it's worth a discussion. Again, based on what James and I were talking about on Thursday, we were kind of chatting about how the industry's kind of hitting this point where growth isn't what it used to be. Investors are pulling out or not putting money in. It's affecting video games. Again, the video from Alana Pierce shot that one out. She did an amazing job breaking that down a lot better than I did on the VOD. But it brings up these points, and Jason Schreier dropped this article, and the headline being players have too many options to spend $80 on a video game. James, I don't know if you remember, but we kind of talked a little bit about prices rising, how they compared to the past. You know, how did you feel about that?
Actually, I did think about that, and how I felt about it changed this morning when I was on Facebook and I saw the system prices breakdown adjusted for inflation. Like the Atari 2600 right now would be about $600 if you bought it. And so here we are with a $600 Xbox One. So I feel like, and I guess this is no different from what I've said before. I feel like we've been living in the no inflation life for video games in a long time. And now we're finally caught up to inflation. Like now this is what we're supposed to have been paying this whole time. Right. So I think that to sustain the thing that we love, this is the necessary evil, right? At the same time, I think people are going to be more effective about buying, just like not finishing their backlogs and not like, just getting too excited with FOMO and buying games too, like right now, and so they can kind of catch up. I think it's a good balance. It's just self-correcting itself, I think, personally, at this point.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. What I really wanted to highlight with this and why I want to have a discussion, especially with people in the chat about this, is we've been talking about how much nuance there is in this industry right now and how much there is about the conversations we're having about game costs, the rising cost of developments, the rising costs of everything around us, how it's affecting what we have time to spend on. And not only that, the games that are releasing, the games that are going to be releasing soon, how much the trend lately has been, so focused on games as a service and online platforms, trying to take in all of your time into that one place. We just don't have enough time, much less don't have enough money to keep engaging with this like we used to. So maybe that means we have to rethink some things, and maybe the industry is trying to change with that as well. And that's kind of what this article talks about a little bit, and why I wanted to bring it up to you and Ace tonight, and by extension chat, to hear what people have to say. But like Jason mentions, here is the subtitle. As Xbox announces a price hike, the year's best reviewed games are all budget titles. So there's a couple facts that he brings up that I wanted to highlight in here. Feel free to toss the link in chat. But it is a token one, so just keep in mind only the first few people are going to get through. Fact one, Microsoft Corp's Xbox announced this week that it will sell some of its upcoming video games at 80, a hike from the previous standard of 70, which itself was a hike from 60 just a few years ago. As James mentioned, we're kind of catching up to those times. We've had this discussion a little bit before, so this is, to be expected. The second fact was 3 of the highest reviewed games of 2025 so far, according to the review aggregation website Metacritic: Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, Blueprints, and Split Fiction. Those costs on those games respectively are 50, 30, and 50. So he mentions, perhaps it's coincidence that the best rated games of the year just happen to be budget titles, but I think the 2 facts above point to something else: a critical flaw in the gaming industry's operations that has contributed to its plateaued growth and widespread layoffs. So as mentioned in our last podcast and in the VOD, if you go back and watch it, we're talking about how investors are really the ones kind of driving this car, right? And the expectations of this continued growth were so sky high. And this was after years of growth and then an even more explosive growth during COVID. And then now we've kind of hit this plateau and it's not exactly the same. That being said, this industry is still making tons of money, but that investment that they're getting from these places has gone away, right? Or there's less and less people being willing to take these risks that comes with AAA development or some of these like development studios. That's why we're seeing so many layoffs. That's why we're seeing like a push now to get pricing up to where it is. One thing that was also mentioned in this, there was estimates of big budget productions swelling from an average of 128.2 million in the early 2010s to an average of 440 million today, which has not been coupled with growth in players or sales. So that's the other part of this too, is the fact that there's not enough people being made to offset the need for growth. So that's something crazy to think about too. So we're in this point where we've mentioned before about AAA game development and this bloat, not innovation drives these costs that we mentioned here in the title. But this is a very interesting kind of like situation to be in. So we're kind of talking about the value in smaller titles, like editions, you know, Split Fiction, standing out in the market lately. The market's becoming more and more crowded, as we mentioned, with upcoming titles, a lot of online platforms. We got things like Marathon, in addition to 2 other games that are coming out that happen to be extraction shooters. Destiny still need to be a thing, not to harp specifically on Bungie, but we were just talking about it earlier, so it's worth mentioning. That being said, the other side of this is we talked about sales earlier, guys. Oblivion, AC Shadows, Monster Hunter Wilds, giant titles. They're the 3 best-selling games of the year. So despite the fact that we're talking about these budget titles being there and the need for people to kind of cut back or conserve money or be more considerate about the thing, they're still throwing money at these titles. Now, Oblivion wasn't the full price. It's a remastered, but still, like, just seeing the sales numbers there. And then on top of that, remember, we started off the news with the GTA 6 trailer. James and I were talking about this in the backstage right before we started. But Ace, after looking at prices of some of these games, like Mario Kart being $80, maybe not kind of looking at that, watch the trailer for GTA 6. People were doing that meme where they're slamming the credit card right on the desk and like, pay it. Whatever the cost is, I will pay it. It doesn't matter if it's 80. It doesn't matter if it's 100. It doesn't matter if it's 120. People are going to pay. And I know that I'm willing to pay a little bit more too, because after seeing that trailer and their website dropping all these details, like, it is going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be worth the price. So, Ace, how do you kind of feel about that, man?
Well, I could say that I'm actually a little biased, largely because GTA ain't necessarily the kind of game that I normally look to play. And while GTA 6 isn't grabbing me the same way as I'm sure it's grabbing pretty much everyone else, I look at it and I can basically see that it really does look like a lot of work and a lot of time has gone into the game itself. And I'm credit where it's due. The game looks solid, and it looks like one of those games where fans have been waiting for so long just for any crumb of information, and now that there's more here, as well as a release date, folks are going to start putting their money into it. And I mean, however much it's going to cost at this point, more power to them.
Right. And not to say you're absolutely right. It may not be for you, certainly fine for people. Just saying more so, Rockstar as a company is a little bit of an anomaly in that they're able to spend a lot and put a lot of time, effort into it. You'll see in the trailer, even if you're not a fan, the amount of detail put into even the trailer by this team is insane. There's that one point where he's walking out of a convenience store with a 6-pack of beers, and you can see the water sloshing around inside.
Yeah.
Right. Like, the amount of obsession with this team of getting every detail right in their living world. Like, people understand that it's going to cost more and are willing to spend when there's that kind of much time and effort put into it. And this time around, from what we've heard anyway, Rockstar's been a lot better about crunch culture. They've been really trying to fix that with this most recent one. It's pretty crazy. But man, I don't know. It's an interesting conversation to have, because we can lament, price increases when everything else around us is increasing in price as well. Like, in a vacuum, catching up to where games should be with inflation, sure, that's certainly understandable. But then we talk about wages haven't matched that inflation either. So that's why we're kind of feeling this weird negative void when it comes to that. Basically, it's starting to feel more and more like decisions have to be made like we as people and gamers about our ability to afford our hobbies anymore, and that's going to start being exclusionary. So it's just like an interesting like thing to talk about. But for discussion tonight, I just had a couple questions. The first one being, as a gamer with cold hard cash, where do you land on choosing to spend on original IPs sitting at that lower price point versus the established returning franchises that are still going to sit at 80 moving forward?
This is like what is this? What's your price? Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Ace.
You know, a lot more of the games that I have been really enjoying over the last couple of years. I mean, yeah, sure, I spend money on, established franchises, Dynasty Warriors, Street Fighter, Monster Hunter, Gundam Breaker. But a lot more of the games that I've been enjoying over the last couple of years have been, ones with original IPs, ones that are just barely getting their start. Expedition 33 is a great example of that. There's that, LC, Skull the Hero Slayer, Cookie Cutter. That's another one. A lot of these,
yeah, like we mentioned Balatro earlier too, is like an indie title that would come out.
Yeah, there are a lot of these games that are you could say that they're the first of their kind, in that it's a brand new IP, it's a brand new property, it's brand new stories being told. And I gotta say, I mean, like tonight for the tech, I'm gonna be showing off some stuff from Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, but after that, I'm probably going to wind up going back to Expedition 33 or playing some more LC, or again, going back to Cookie Cutter, because it just feels like when you're dealing with a new IP, there isn't that expectation. There isn't that AAA expectation. So there's a lot more room to experiment. There's a lot more room to, make sure that the game has what folks have been saying that games have been missing lately. There's that charm that, you pick up the game and you think, man, I'm glad I actually got this. Even though if I was, still playing, a lot of the bigger names, it probably wouldn't have been on my radar.
Yeah, the reason, absolutely good point. It's the reason I kind of wanted to ask this is we always talk about like putting your money where your mouth is, voting with your wallet, but at the same time, like taking a chance on a new IP you don't really know about, it isn't exactly your style, versus what we have comfort in, that known quantity, is kind of what we're running up against, right? Like taking a chance on Claire Obscure, like the trailer looked cool, there was some good buzz about it, but the moment those reviews friggin' hit, right? And then people started talking about it, and then you checked it out and you're like, oh, this is great. Versus it came out the same time as Oblivion, and Oblivion is the third best-selling game of this year already, right? So people, again, that was a good remaster, but it's the fact that people are more willing to do that with the known quantity, despite the fact we keep asking for, I want something new, I want something to evolve. And all we're doing is evolving or updating older games, right? So again, it's just an interesting conversation to have about it. I'm not saying that it's across the board going to be like this, but just kind of a thinking piece. James, where do you kind of land on this?
Yeah, but basically, just to sum it up, though, like I've actually gotten a lot more comfortable with putting my money into taking chances on new IPs.
Right. And for good reason. We've seen a big boom of indie titles again, right? As a lot of people are kind of shifting back to that lower price point, being more okay with taking a risk on an unknown, right? Versus the established kind of thing. But then again, we're just seeing those sales figures. We talk about Ubisoft and needing to get away from Ubisoft games, but AC Shadows selling incredible. Not saying it's a bad game, just saying, like, for the purpose of this conversation, just kind of considering it. James, I know you said it was tough. Do you have any feelings on it? Doesn't have to be an answer.
I don't know which part. There was a lot going on.
Sorry. Where do you sit as a gamer with cold hard cash on spending on original IPs sitting at their lower price point versus the established returning franchises that are going to be at 80 plus?
I think the price on games is irrelevant if you really want to play a game that you're impressed with. Like, I knew nothing about Clear Obscure. The first time that I saw it was at a Summer Games Fest or something like that, and the fact that it was like the dynamic camera angles, the movement of the characters, and the way they portrayed the menus, kind of like Persona. I was like, this looks cool. Like, I know nothing about Clair Obscure. Is that a book? But the fact that it looked cool, like, I wanted to try it, and I didn't even know if it was going to be $50 or not. Right? I just know that games cost $60 and $70. That's all I know. Now, as far as like, if you're going to ask me, will I spend $80 on like Street Fighter 7 versus like a new fighting game called World Warrior at 50? Well, I think the answer to that for me is I'm a fan of Street Fighter. I'll pay for that regardless, because I have that reputation with them, that loyalty, right? But for that new game that's $50, they have to impress me with some sort of trailer, some sort of gameplay where I go, wow, this is actually pretty cool. I don't mind paying for this game either when it comes out, because I like fighting. Right now, if I had only choice for one, well, there are way two different price points. If I only have $50, I only have $50, or 80. If I had $80 to spend, and I had to choose one, well, that's a tough one, because do I want the latest and greatest game? My comfort, like you said, I've always been playing Street Fighter, or this new game that I'm willing to bet my money on. Now
that looks more interesting.
Maybe
that was I could have worded that a little bit better when it came to you. You're right. That's kind of what I was getting at. If you could only spend on one game, if you could only pick,
gotcha,
kind of thing. So I mean, that's kind of a two-part question. The original one, Ace, great answer. I really appreciate your insight on that. Based on what you were saying just now, James, that's kind of where I want to pivot that question, is just if you could only spend on one game and you had to choose between that, like you said, like you were leading up to. Yeah, that's a lot more of a thought.
The answer for that is actually what most of our clients at the game store typically answers. What are my friends playing on? Or what are my friends playing so I can play with them?
Yeah.
Usually that's the answer. Like, what's the hot game that everyone's playing right now? So if they're playing Street Fighter 8 or 7, I'm going to probably play that because I want to play with my friends, right? But let's take that out of the equation. Like, I have friends, and that I want to try these two games. Honestly, like, if I wasn't a fan of the game that I have now, if it had bad reviews, like Street Fighter 5 was bad when it first came out. Coming from 4 to 5, not a lot of people saw value in 5. So let's just say another game had come out that time, I would have probably picked the other cheaper game, just because all the bad speculation on the newest title that I was looking forward to, right? So it all has to break down with educated purchasing, and I feel like now, with the way things are getting more expensive, we're going to be forced to, as consumers, to be more careful and be more educated in our purchases, and I have no problem with that, actually. Because like what you said, there's too much at stake here, where people are losing their jobs because the market's bloated. There's not enough players. I honestly feel like these developers and publishers need to go back to square one and make sure that it's sustainable. Like, they can't be just throwing money at the wall hoping it will stick, because games like Clair Obscure can happen. And I bet you right now, and this is a huge speculation, the industry's not too happy with this game.
Nope.
That reminds me a little bit of the industry pushback when Baldur's Gate 3 came out.
Yeah, exactly.
That had a very specific process that the team did, and years of community feedback to get it where it was. The risk of waiting to release that until later it cost more for sure, but look what it did in the end. Correct. Again, it's all part of that risk taking. You bring up a good point. And like you said about people coming into a store and saying, what are my friends playing? That's the whole reason I checked out Helldivers 2. I didn't enjoy the first Helldivers. It wasn't exactly my thing. Twin stick shooters aren't exactly what I get into when I've got spare time, but I loved Helldivers 2 because I could play with my friends. So that is part of the decision for me. Second question. based on what you were just leading to. So I'd be interested to see what you think first, James, if you want to think about it for a sec. But we can see that change is already happening. As mentioned, there's been a lot more push for indies and kind of the industry settling down, especially after our conversation about, industry growth, shareholders. But what do you think AAA studios will be forced to change? Or sorry, totally started that wrong. We can see change is happening already, but do you think AAA studios will be forced to change practices sooner rather than later? And then what would you do in their shoes? That's more of like an extended discussion. We don't have to dive into that part, but the first one, do you think they need to change their practices sooner rather than later? Or do you think they still have some time to react and work out the stuff they're working on right now?
Man, sooner. But honestly, the market's responding to the way things are as it is. Game sales have dropped, right? I think the people that have the money are a little bit out of touch. When I mean out of the money, the investors, because all they look at is numbers all day. They don't look at the situation because they wait for those meetings to like see what's for them to tell the investors what's going on, those investor meetings, and they don't follow the industry. And so what happens is that, like, we now know there's not enough people for growth, right? The people that were playing video games during COVID are not playing video games anymore, right? They moved on to do other things. And this is why, the influencers are calling people normies and stuff like that. They've moved on to other things because now they can go outside again, right? So your player base has dropped.
They don't have that captive audience.
Exactly. But unfortunately, games take a while to make. So even if they're during that time in 2020, they were like, man, all right, look at all these people buying our old stuff. This is our captive audience right now. We're going to make a new game. But then 4 years later, things get better. Those people leave. Now they're going, how come our game didn't sell? Now the game could be good, but I'm saying that, but like you said, there's not enough people buying them because they just don't care anymore. They moved on to other things, right? So their info is outdated, and they need to get in there and talk and see and get the temperature of the culture and what gamers are purchasing, what they want. So this way they can make a game that people are going to want to buy, right? Versus like what they think they're going to buy according to the data that they have from 4 years ago. Right. So they need to do it sooner because now they're bleeding money. And honestly, they're risking people's livelihoods. And I don't like seeing people get laid off and stuff like that. But that's the investors' fault for like bloating their system. And look, this is the punishment for that.
Yeah, Andre, you bring a good point about Zen and Withering Waves. And I mean, by extension, Genshin and all those titles, Fortnite, like, people are still spending money. Obviously, we were talking about microtransactions before. James mentioned these video game sales. I pulled up this report while he was saying that. But in March 2025, total video game sales in the United States amounted to $4.69 billion US. But this represented a 6% year-over-year decrease. So there's been a decrease despite still being, pretty popular in the zeitgeist. It's super interesting. Like you said, like they need to make changes. The issue, again, compounded by the fact like it takes so much time and resources to make these games. Not everyone can be a rock star and spend 10 years on a title and afford it, right? Now, when those games release, they make their money back because that's what they're known for, and they make those kind of titles. Not every team can do that. We've seen what happened when COD Cord launched, right? And the amount of money that Sony lost on that investment. Ace, what do you think? They need to change sooner, right?
Oh, absolutely, sooner rather than later. And you mentioned something about the, the structure of, the structure of these publishers and, these groups of investors. And again, I gotta bring up Expedition 33 because, listen, while Sandfall, is a team of 33 developers, here's the thing. It wasn't just that team of 33 over at Sandfall. The combat animation, like the animations and the motion capture in the game, that was outsourced to an 8-person team in South Korea. The publishers themselves, Kepler Interactive, Kepler is different, is vastly different from, most, if not every other AAA publisher, because Kepler is staffed full of developers, not investors. It's literally like a collective of game developers that have gotten together to help other developers publish their titles. And just the mindset and culture behind that, is one of, understanding the conditions on the ground. And that difference right there gave the team at Sandfall it gave them leeway to really, experiment. It gave them leeway to really work on their game. And not only did they also help them, save money, because, they didn't have to worry so much about, not just publishing costs through Kepler, but also advertising and, the intense marketing cycles that most of these games have been getting. But it's saving on marketing and, the financial back end. It's saving on, it's saving on the motion capture end. It's, finding their lead writer on Reddit, finding their lead composer on SoundCloud, of all places.
Yeah, we're talking about the bloat in the industry as a whole. Like, how many times have we heard about projects that were just mismanaged, right? And the amount of money and time and effort on everybody's account that just goes down the toilet because of those short-sighted decisions. Or we've lamented like publishers determining release schedules, stuff like that, where it's like taken away from the creators, and where that has led to issues.
And it's that sort of culture, that sort of, that saving that they were able to do. That is actually part of the reason why they were able to get the likes of Andy Serkis and Charlie Cox to actually show up and provide the voice work, because they had the spare capital, because it wasn't being funneled into, the bloat.
Right. All right. I appreciate that. Last question. This one will be quick. Can you think of any currently announced game or release game that doesn't feel worth the asking price? And can you see one that does? So my impetus for this was looking at GTA 6. This was, and it's been confirmed, was recorded on the PS5 for this trailer, not the PS5 Pro. This is the PS5. The base PS5 is playing with this kind of fidelity. So I would feel like you look at this, people are talking like $100 price point, knowing what GTA Online and what this game would be, and now judging by, watch a trailer if you can, what I feel like the story behind this is, the narrative seems a lot more interesting and cohesive than we've seen before, like really fleshed out. We got this dual protagonist, Bonnie and Clyde kind of thing, adult relationship like built into it too. If you look at their website, the breakdowns that they talk about, this does feel like, an $80 to $100 game, because I know the value you're going to get on it. The flip side of that for me, and this is just my own opinion, Mario Kart World doesn't feel like an $80 game to me. I do know it's open world. I understand that, or kind of open world, but having played games like Forza Horizon and really seeing the bones of that in this new Mario, it's just more Mario Kart to me. It doesn't feel like an $80 game. Like, obviously I'm not saying the devs didn't put in the work or anything like that. You guys get that. But just saying, like, when I think about games that I'm looking at the new asking price with all this nuance we just talked about. That's what it feels like to me. I don't feel that's worth 80, but then I can feel like this one is worth a higher price. Like, weird thing in my head, just wondering what you two think. What's a game that doesn't feel worth the asking price, and what's one that does?
Honestly, I feel like I'm right there with you with Mario Kart World, as far as, games that don't, as far as a game that doesn't look like it's, a game that I don't feel is worth the price that Nintendo is asking. I mean, if I'm being honest with you, like a lot of the Nintendo Switch titles that are getting, Switch 2 versions, I don't think they're worth the asking price, because even though it's new hardware, it's new tech being applied to these same games, a lot of these games that Nintendo is trying to, use as a sort of cross-generational bridge they've been on the market for so long at this point that, honestly, their price point should have, at the very least, depreciated to some degree.
And for a game that you feel is worth the price, I'm going to assume Claire Obscure for you.
Oh, yeah. Claire Obscure. Honestly, I feel like I would have actually bought Claire Obscure at 60. have had no problem buying it at 60, just with with what I've seen as far as just the the content itself, the content and the quality of the game. That right there, I'm glad it released at a budget price. I'd pay 60 for it. And honestly, if I was going to get into GTA, from what I've been seeing here with this trailer, I kind of feel like I would go at least 70, if not 75, for GTA 6. But I'm a cheap bastard.
I was gonna say, I'm guessing you haven't seen the size of the map either. It's massive compared to 5, and 5 was big in its own right. James, what about you, man?
I'm holding a game right now that I think that was not worth its value, or maybe misspent its value on the game. It's this one right here. This one right here.
6.
I feel like 90% of the budget went to graphics because it's impressively a good-looking game, but there's not much game in it, is what I gotta say. Like, that's why I keep saying could have been a movie, right? Because there's not enough game in it for me to appreciate it. But Andre was saying what I was thinking, Vampire Survivors, for the amount of hours I put into that game and the amount I've paid for it, because remember in What's Your Price, I talk about the value of what you paid for. So if it's a $5 game and I spent, it's 30 hours on it, that's six hours, a dollar for 6 hours each. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And another game that came out at a super budget price this year that, again, it just has insane value proposition. Warriors Abyss. Like, that game came out at 25, shadow dropped at 25. And you sit down and you're playing this, and you're trying to get used to the mechanics. If you're used to playing Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors, you've got the basics down, but then as you're going through and trying to reconcile the roguelike mechanics that are being added to it. Next thing you know, you're like, okay, one more run. Okay, one more run. 6 hours later, one more run. Oh, wait, is the sun coming up?
Yeah, and JNG, like on that same thought, JNG was talking in chat about, hey, this kind of feels like it'd be every game. That's the difficulty in this, and why I pose these questions is this kind of value, and we've done it on the show. James has brought it up multiple times about What's Your Price. It's inherently subjective when you're looking at these games and you're thinking about your own money. That's why you can't just like blanket statement any of this. It's just kind of looking at that, understanding the forces that are in play, and kind of just having a discussion about it. That's why we do this on the show, is to have this kind of community and just think about this stuff through, chat about it, find different viewpoints. Like, invite your friends in too. We love doing these combos. So I appreciate your input.
And honestly, like JNG, like value on anything is based on how much someone is willing to pay for said item or service, right? So but the value for you is how much you get out of it, right? So it really just depends for you. That's why it's subjective. That's why it's personal. Like, for example, Ace brought up Warriors Abyss. If somebody didn't know what Dynasty Warriors was or roguelike, would they even buy that game? No.
Or does know what it is and doesn't care.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. There's no value in that game, right? So that's why it's so subjective.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the articles. That's the news. That's the rumors for this week, guys. I really appreciate the conversation, and thank you again so much, chat, for chatting with us about that.
I love it.
There we go. So does that guy. He loves it too.
Yeah.
All right. It's been 2 weeks since you looked at me.
Dude, I forgot to mention, by the way, Ace, I'm sorry to step on your toes there, but that GTA trailer that shadow dropped this morning, it just passed 45.5 million views.
Damn.
Nick, did you get that link I sent you? I want to share something with the chat real quick. In private chat.
Okay, so you want me to like copy this over into the Twitch chat, or
no? Put it on the screen. Share the screen.
It's on the screen for you.
All right. So I wanted to share with you guys. This is what I follow when I'm not gaming. When I look into stuff about video games, go to 5 days. Right. Look at that drop.
Good God.
Guess what day that was, chat? This image shows you the day it was delayed. Take-Two lost money that day. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is the problem with the video game industry right now. These guys right here got scared and pulled out their money, right? It doesn't mean it's going to be a good game. It doesn't mean it's going to be a bad game, right? But the investors go, oh, I guess we're not going to get our payout this year. So they took their money out and invested in something else. This is what's wrong with the video game industry right now. And I bet you these guys don't even play video games. So this is what you need to look at and why it's failing right here, right? Investors are really manipulating what's happening behind the closed doors when it comes to developing these games and funding them, because these guys are the ones really in control of the CEOs with those decisions. So I just wanted to make sure you guys are aware of, like, this is kind of a really extreme example, but this is what I look at each day to see, well, what happened? Why come this company's struggling? How come they had to lay off a bunch of people, right? So actions like these knee-jerk reactions from investors is really what's happening, versus like, oh, the game didn't sell well. No, it's these guys that are causing this for people to panic.
Yeah, right? This is the delay announcement.
Yeah,
and then here's today, the moment the trailer drops.
Yep.
Second trailer up, goes back down. I'm guessing that's like they saw that, then they saw the release date being reconfirmed.
Yeah.
And then the amount of views on that video
based on like the interest and the views that trailer's been getting.
Yeah, it's been out like what, 14 hours, and it's getting close to 50 million views already. And again, we were talking about earlier, the algorithm going crazy with people like breaking apart the tiniest details. Like,
but still,
investors are eating good.
That
I should have bought.
That went off the freaking cliff.
How many points is that? I can just run the math
from where it started, or
where it dropped, peak, into where it fell.
So where it's peaked right now is 231.81. When it was down here, it looks like about 216.
So 231.81 minus 216.
216.35.
216.
About 65 points.
Okay, now what's the stock value right now?
It is currently at close 231.84, after hours 233.82.
Multiply, go with the lowest one. I'll multiply by 231.84. 230. All right. So it, like, per share, by the way, so per unit, if you bought one share of this company, it would have been $3,500, right? That lost in value. Like, that's crazy. The amount it lost in a moment.
Oh, that's the increase. Sorry.
Right.
Wrong numbers then. If you want the drop. So the drop, apologies on that. The peak was, are you ready for numbers?
Yeah.
236.46.
Okay.
Down to that 216.18.
Oh, it cratered.
Yeah, so 20 points, down by 20 points. So you take the value difference, right, and then you multiply that by the stock. That's how much dollar value it lost. So imagine how much money you put into it if you had X amount of shares, right? And that's what happened. That's all it is. They go, oh man, we won't be getting paid this quarter. Guess we'll put our money somewhere else. They don't care about you. Just know that. These are investors.
Easy.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Ace.
Oh, don't even sweat it. I mean, that's honestly, that right there was something that we all needed to see.
Yeah, just like this is what we need to see as well. Welcome back to the tech. It's been 2 weeks, and Ace is back with a menace. All right, what we got here? Here it is. All right, what we got for us for this week, Ace? What you got?
For this week, we're actually going to be switching it up a little bit. Last few weeks it's been Monster Hunter, but considering that this game has just dropped recently, and there's a lot of people playing it, but there's a lot of people that have actually been looking at trying to get into Fatal Fury as a series, and are seeing, they're seeing the footage from City of the Wolves. They're seeing the art direction, the style of the game, and it's attracting a lot of new players. So I figure it would be a good idea to at the very least, give folks a 101 level crash course in one of the main characters in this series to help kind of ease folks into it, right? Like how every single Street Fighter has, the Shoto characters, but it's not just that, they're, these characters aren't mainstays for nothing, because with characters, going back to Street Fighter, with characters like Ken and Ryu, not only do you have characters whose movesets are, pretty basic comparatively, but it's that basic level of understanding that helps you, learn those characters, but also helps encourage you because you can take what you've learned from those base characters and apply it to some of the others with their different movesets. Similar thing here with the Fatal Fury series, and in particular with, quite frankly, one of the most iconic characters in fighting games, period. That being this man right here.
The Ryu of Fatal Fury.
Yep. And of course, got to go with
the ace jacket.
Pretty much.
Do you have his classic costume?
Actually, as a matter of fact, I do. I should have gone with that.
Yeah.
Oh well. But with Terry as a fighter, Terry is very much a sort of middle of the road character. As far as the damage that he can deal just by himself, without going into any of the advanced mechanics, you can measure what you do with other characters in this game based off of what you're able to do with Terry. Terry's the yardstick. So even just, standard movement, navigating him around the screen, his jumps, his hops, the dashing, it's all straightforward. It's something that, it's that kind of base level meat and potatoes feel that you'll come to appreciate. And again, you'll come to base your experience with other characters off of it. Now, I mentioned Terry is the Shoto, or one of the Shotos. So he's got your basic special moves. Even aside from his normal attacks, which have various ranges, his special moves are kind of the again, the foundation of how you're going to be playing through this game. So you've got your offensive projectiles, like, of course, the classic Power Wave. And as you work with that projectile, I mean, sure, it's not a standard, across the screen projectile. This one hits, this one technically hits low. Whereas, it's easier to jump over. But through this, you use the different buttons for it, and you can tell, okay, so light punch, travels slower, but allows you to run after it. Heavy punch travels faster, but it has longer windup. You get used to that flow. But one of the systems that was introduced in City of the Wolves is the Rev system, which is pretty much your, it's your enhanced specials. It's your EX moves from Street Fighter. And of course, Terry, if you've been playing him in Street Fighter 6, then you already know at the very least what his EX projectile is going to look like. Instead of just, the blast moving across the ground, it's an actual wave.
Which, by the way, is his Fatal Fury 1 Power Wave.
Yep. Now, this game is very offensive in nature. Not like, Tekken 8 Season 2 offensive.
Bruh.
But you notice the little gauge that was ticking down, the little the meter that just went up, the little green meter, and the bottom, it should be in the bottom left, but it's kind of covered up by the...
I'll take it out.
There we go. So yeah, that right there, with that meter, What it basically is that you have access to your enhanced specials. You have access to your EX moves right out the gate. You don't have to build meter for them. So you can literally start off the round with the enhanced power wave. But just like with the other Shotos, they also have their moves which carry them across the screen, help you close the distance. Burning Knuckle. And it's the same thing as with the power wave. You use your light punch. It travels a certain distance. Heavy punch travels further, hits harder. But the heavy attack version also takes advantage of a Fatal Fury, or at the very least of a Mark of the Wolves and City of the Wolves specific mechanic, breaking, which means you can literally cancel the move mid-animation, mid-travel. So not necessarily with the power wave, but with your melee-based moves. If you use the heavy ones and you break them, you pretty much not only give yourself an advantage as far as, how soon you can move, how soon you can recover afterwards, but it's also good for mixing up your approach. So you can try to use the light punch variants of the Burning Knuckle to, get in on your opponent, apply pressure. But then if you mix it up with your backdashes and then say, you commit to the big one from long range, it's a great way to bait your opponent into a response and capitalize. Because it's like, oh, you see Terry throw his arms out. He's going to do the heavy one. Not so much. Now, much like with the Shotos and other fighting games, your main man is also going to have a decent anti-air weapon. That right there is going to be the power dunk. Not his classic rising tackle. That one Rock has. But we can cover that next week. With the power dunk, same thing. You've got, and you even see the call out on the screen, you've got invincibility on startup. And the rising shoulder actually counts as a hit. So, if you catch someone mid-jump or mid-attack, then yeah, you're going to get the counter attack. Like, you're going to get the counter hit to land. You're going to get that extra vulnerability on your opponent when they're sent, floating. Heavy attack, same as with the heavy attack variants of all of his other moves. Hits harder, goes higher. Also break cancelable, thus allowing for juggles. And not just juggling into the same move, but recovering fast enough to juggle into any of his other moves. Let's try that again. Even EX variants. Speaking of which, the Rev variant of the Burning Knuckle, also break cancelable. Same with the Rev variant of the Power Dunk. So, your distance closer, your anti-air. And on top of that, you also have a decent mix-up tool with the crack shoot, or the Fatal Fury Tatsumaki, basically. But this one, the crack shoot, same thing as far as like differences between the light attack and the heavy attack variants. Light attack is good for keeping you close to the ground so you can recover from it fast, especially if the opponent actually blocks it. Heavy attack works for knockdown, works for creating space, and can also be utilized to pretty much end combos if you land a counter hit on the first hit beforehand. But again, long recovery frames, flies higher, hits harder. This one you can't break. However, another Fatal Fury exclusive, you can do feints. So again, mix up your speeds, mix up your angles, and you can even do a feint to once again bait a response out of your opponent. So there's a good number of sort of tricky mechanics that are specific to this series that help really augment even a basic character, even a yardstick character like Terry's moveset. Speaking of Terry's moveset, one last special that I want to show you guys is, of course, another sort of advancing pressure tool that Terry has. That being the power charge. And this, you can actually go into 2 extended attacks off of that. Now, seeing as how this is a 3-piece move, you don't have to worry about breaking to actually, stop it in the middle of its animation. You can do 1. You could do 2 and then either back off or transition to other modes of offense. Or you could go for the full 3 and both variants, light and heavy, have hard knockdown on that last hit. So that's going to be another thing to help you give yourself some room. The EX variant is basically, it hits as hard as the heavy attack version, but comes out with the speed of the light attack version. So that's going to be your advantage. So if you're in the middle of a block string, or say in the middle of actually, landing a combo, if you want to still get that damage but actually throw it out faster, you'll spend a little bit of that rev meter, use the Rev Arts version. And now we're going to get into the supers. Pretty straightforward fare. The little star gauge is down at the bottom. You build up those 2 stocks, then you have access to your super moves, or your ignition gear attacks. Terry's classics, of course. Power Geyser. Anti-projectile. It's stationary, but still high burst damage per shot. And of course, if you use if you've got 2 stocks and you use the heavy attack version, invincible on startup, extra blasts. Again, good for ending your offensive with just cashing out your resources for damage. His second super, the CVS2 classic. This one is solely built to get you across the screen. You can use it point blank for solid damage, but this is Terry's counter to if you get stuck in a firefight. And of course, if you use the 2-stock variant, greater damage comes out faster because you've also got that invincibility on startup. Now, aside from the rev mechanic, you also have the SPG, the selected potential gear, or back in Mark of the Wolves, it was the top gauge. But what that is basically deciding a specific portion of your health where you not only have access to recoverable health, at a slow speed, but also certain other attacks. Well, those attacks being the rev blows, or oh god, I forget what they were called in City of the Wolves. But each character has one on the ground and in midair. With Terry's, it's basically enhanced versions of his crack shoot, of his overhead, and of his anti-air, his power dunk. But what SPG also gives you access to, if you've got 2 bars, is a character's hidden gear. It's basically level 3 super that is guaranteed to either turn the tide of a fight or end it once you land it.
Let's go. An homage to the anime, by the way.
Always another beer.
Fantastic attacks if you land them, but they will leave you wide open like your favorite bank on Monday morning if you are not careful.
It's graphic.
I could have gone more graphic, but y'all get that.
It's graphic.
Now, as a yardstick character, one thing that Terry can also help showcase is how the rev system in City of the Wolves can lead to some interesting offense, not just with your enhanced specials, but with actually being able to connect all of your enhanced specials and even your rev blows together in a sequence. Case in point. You know, real simple. If you can close the distance with a enhanced burn knuckle, cut to the EX crack shoot, which also reveals one of its other interesting perks. If you catch an opponent that's already in midair with that, it'll cause a ground bounce and allow you to follow up for even further damage. I was doing a little bit of tinkering around, and again, Terry's a great character to go into practice mode with because, it makes it easier to see the mechanics to, I guess, visualize the code of the Matrix. So, I was tinkering around and wound up coming across something that looks a little something like this. Now, as you're connecting these moves together, your rev gauge is going to keep going up and up and up. And once you hit 100%, you'll go into overheat, which means you don't have access to your extended specials for a while. So be careful. It's risk and reward. It's knowing how to balance your offense with being able to dial it back. So let's see if I can actually pull off the one that I came across earlier, just to kind of show off some of the upper limits of the damage that you can do once you've taken the time to learn the mechanics with characters like Terry. So it's 1, 2, 3. Dang it. Something like that. And earlier, I was actually able to, with the resources I've got available, I was actually able to end that with his hidden gear super. It was really cool to pull off, and yeah, it's a satisfying system once you get the hang of it, but you got to take time to practice first. And what better character to do so with than Terry? But yeah, that right there is City of the Wolves 101. Next week, if y'all come back for the next class, we'll take you back to Southtown and show you the other young wolf roaming the streets.
Who would you say is the most complicated Fatal Fury character right now?
Ooh, most complicated. I would think that would probably go to either Gato or Preacha.
I can see Gato. Gato was pretty complicated in the OG one too. So.
Yeah, Gato's pretty complicated, and Preacha, like one of her specials is like a longer attack string than even Terry's power charge. So, you've got a lot more variables as far as being able to like cancel your attack strings, go for follow-ups, and just really, really mix up the gameplay.
Yeah. I learned that from the beta.
That was a question specifically for Wolves, but I know that Terry's been around a long time. What's your favorite version of him in his games?
Ooh. Favorite version? I'm actually kind of biased to. I'm actually kind of biased to Terry in SVC Chaos.
It's a good one.
Because that version of him right there is like the one that feels like it encompasses the most of his moveset over the course of the series. It's between that and KOF 2002 Unlimited Match.
Okay, fair enough. Just thought I'd ask while we're on the topic.
KOF 13 for me, 100%. That's a good one.
Fair.
Speaking of questions, why don't we just bump up here to real quick for the rhetorical. So last week, I asked a couple of questions through the chat and the audience what they thought of some what ifs for the things that we beloved the most. Like, for example, like what did I ask last time? If you could make a video game out of your worst character trait, what kind of video game would it be?
Yeah, you posed some like really tough questions, and I was not ready for any of them because they involved some very deep thought.
So let's boot up the thinking machine here, and let's ask 2 questions that I have for tonight. All right, question number 1: if you could merge 2 franchises to a dream crossover, Marvel versus Capcom. Yeah. Which 2 would it be? That's not already been released. Chat, I would love to hear. Panel, go ahead.
Let's go.
2 dream franchises.
Can't do Namco versus Namco and Capcom. You can't do Sega and Capcom. It's already been done.
No. I'm already right there. Right? I'm already right there. I already got one that I would love to see happen. Right? Anarchy Reigns and Streets of Rage.
Streets of Anarchy. All right. And what kind of game would it be? Tell us a little bit more about your vision.
I think that it would still wind up being it would still definitely wind up being it's got to be an action game. It's got to be a beat 'em up. But I want to see if nothing else, seeing these seeing the characters from all across Streets of Rage from 1 through 4, or at the very least, variants of them, fighting their way through that, post-apocalyptic wasteland that you're running through in Anarchy Reigns, and maybe even having it to where, this, so far flung into the future, somehow Mr. X still survived and is just completely just making things even worse.
So would it play more like SF4 or would it play more like Anarchy Reigns?
I'd want it to play more like Anarchy Reigns.
Okay, like 3D behind the back camera. Okay, gotcha. All right. See, Andre says, I'd imagine Doom cross with God of War. Also, Doom meets Devil May Cry. And J&G Animation says, Leech versus Yu Yu Hakusho.
Nice.
Anime AF.
Excellent call outs there.
Yeah. All right. What about you, Nick?
Man, I hate these questions. Because you're going to ask me follow-up questions, and I'm just going with my gut reaction. Yeah, I would love a feel of Mass Effect meets Grand Theft Auto.
Okay. Would it play more like Grand Theft Auto or Mass Effect?
It would play in the world like this, not the world. It would play in the style of Grand Theft Auto in terms of like the amount of detail, the way that the world feels, the open, kind of like play style to it, the ability to go anywhere. That's what I feel like I was kind of sold on with games like No Man's Sky, the ability to go like friggin' anywhere, right? But I would love that in Mass Effect's universe. So sci-fi universe, great storytelling, has some RPG elements, but definitely like modernized to feel more updated. Watching you play the Mass Effect trilogy again, I love Mass Effect so much, but what I remember loving most is the universe it's in and the characters. So I'm not married to it having to play like Mass Effect. I'd wanted to have that detailed style, like landing on an open world kind of thing in that GTA-esque kind of, you know, thing where it's, you know, more action based, more about the gunplay, the fidelity, just where the series looks like it's going with 6, but have that Mass Effect universe there.
Okay, so like a GTA in outer space, pretty much.
Kind of, but like I said, it's still relying more on what Mass Effect did for me, at least with storytelling and the characters that you're going around with. I don't need, in this hypothetical, I don't need the heavy RPG elements. I'd still like to have, you know, the class system and have the different way they play. Like that's certainly part of it. But what I'm married to is the universe, the world building, and the narrative, more so than like the moment to moment of gameplay. You asked me a question on stream while you were doing that about like Andromeda versus that, and I said the action of Andromeda is what I enjoyed more, and that still kind of holds true after going back and replaying it. Like that game just feels good to play now, you know, with the benefit of hindsight. But where it lost was, you know, the graphics, the fidelity, the story, the characters. Like, so that's where that rhetorical like hits me first when you ask.
Right on. Man, y'all got to think outside of the box, because
no, I don't. That's not what the question was.
My crossover would be Duke Nukem and Life is Strange.
No, hate it. Hate it.
And the same plot, just Duke in that universe. Duke versus the universe, dude.
Oh no, that's just you inserting one character, and that's not what the question sounded like. Sure, like, going that way.
Well, it is 2 franchises with a dream crossover.
Then I'm just gonna say what we talked about previously. I'm gonna put Doom Guy and Animal Crossing.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm for this one. 2 franchises. No, it's not really a dream, but I just think Duke with anything just adds more flavor to scenario. So, if anything, they should just make him the modern day Demolition Man. That's exactly what he should be. All right. Anyway, next question, last question here for the what ifs. Which game series has the most iconic art direction, and is style more important than graphics? Final Fight meets Streets of Rage. That's a good one.
Well, as far as, you know,
style means more than
has
graphics,
the most iconic art style. I mean, let's face it. You can't say iconic art style or iconic art direction without bringing Persona 5 into the conversation.
Okay, so your vote is Persona 5.
Yeah, my vote would definitely be Persona 5. And as far as, you know, whether, you know, as far as, you know, art style over graphics, without question, art direction and art style, like that right there is it. I feel like that's one of the biggest, you know, that's one of the biggest reasons why, you know, certain games are as beloved as they are. I mean, you've got a lot of, you know, more modern games that are going for, you know, more high fidelity, more hyper realistic visuals. But then you go back and you look at something like Skies of Arcadia that was designed and animated in Macromedia Flash. And visually that game still holds up. Same with Final Fantasy X. Hell, same with Final Fantasy 13.
Newgrounds has entered the chat. I don't know how many hours I spent on Newgrounds playing those games.
But I mean, seriously, even going back into fighting games, like as much as I love the whole, you know, newsprint comic book art style for Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves, you just can't beat the more vibrant animated style of something like Real Bout 2 or Samurai Showdown 4.
All right, that's fair. Yeah. I mean, is pixel art a graphic or a style?
Well, that's more
a style of graphics.
There you go. Well, there's like, I think graphic in this definition is like the amount of fidelity. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Style is like, you know, it could be like 2D, it could be like, you know, Persona, it could be like Mortal Kombat, that's the style.
So. Yeah, I obviously like it's hard not to argue for picking the style. Like we keep bringing up the conversation about how we love the style of the game, like what it brings, the fun factor. Like having good graphics is certainly a part of the experience, and we do appreciate those games. I think it's more so how it handles. Like it doesn't have to have super realistic graphics, but it has to be cohesive. It has to run well. Like in that sense, so like still well put together. One game, let me throw it up in the other window just for example. Not my usual style, but I remember when this game was announced way back when, and this was one of those ones where, for me at least, when I saw the trailer, it's like the style of this. It's not super, current. It's not super high fidelity graphics, but it was dripping with style, and it made me want to play in that world. Right.
Oh, you sent me this before.
This is a different one than Replaced. So I did send Replaced to you guys, but this actually predates it. It's a game called The Last Night, and this is one that's been kind of in development hell. It's almost approaching like vaporware level of things. But I loved this when this was first announced, and I couldn't wait for it. But it's got like the team got downsized, and they had to take over the IP on their own because their publisher pulled out. Or their investors pulled out, and there's just been like silence for years now. So it's probably never going to come out. But this is a good example of one that I didn't need it to have like the high fidelity graphics. It was just steeped in the style, and it looked like it was well put together, and it was a good idea. So that's what I'm going to jump in on, kind of thing. Yeah. So I mean, beyond that, like again, this was at a time when I wasn't into the like picking up games that had the like pixel art kind of thing, but. Yeah, man, I definitely double up on Persona as well. The style of that, like I'd mentioned before, I had never played Persona games before 5. 5 pulled me in. It was the music, it was the graphics, it was the UI, it was just the style. It was like pulled me in.
Yeah, I mean, I think style is super important because if you think of, when you think of fighting games, I think fighting games is a really good example of graphics because a lot of people have to stare at these characters for the longest time. But look at the success of Guilty Gear when they went full 3D, like anime polygons, but they hit it really well. That's like graphically, it's actually cursed if you looked at them like from a different camera angle, right? But the style they did it in is like what makes the game shine. Like Dragon Ball Z Fighters is the same way. They do a lot of like magic to make them look really good. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I remember playing Ori and the Will of the Wisps and Ori and the Blind Forest when those first came out. Like the way that those looked, graphics were incredible, like absolutely incredible. It was a different style. It wasn't hyper realistic, but the graphics were very good. Like it was very well put together, and it was like an incredible like visual kind of treat for me as the viewer. So there's kind of an interesting middle-ish ground there for me with it. But yeah, man, style's gonna pull me more in than anything. And we've seen that again with the indie space.
Oh, for sure. I think the best example of style and graphics that we don't think about are the Cyber Connect games. Like when they do their supers with those characters.
Yeah.
Like there's YouTube channels just based on.
I picked up multiple Naruto fighting games just because of some of the finishers in there.
Yep. Facts, 100%. That's what made those games stick out so much. Yeah. It's super cool.
The cinematic storytelling that they do in that too, and just those frames are just incredible. As a person who loved the show, it was so cool to see.
Like there's like when you create those moves, they do a storyboard, right? And that storyboard, it actually tells you a lot of the story, the context of the move and stuff like that. So it's pretty great. All right, has anything changed since the last time we chat about what you're playing?
Well, let's see. On my end, a little bit of City of the Wolves here and there, but other than that, just been Warriors Abyss, a little bit of Yumiya, and of course Expedition 33.
A little bit of everything. Cozy, got action, and sadness in there.
Cozy, action-packed, and French.
French. Yeah, with a capital F.
Final French to see.
I'm just doing kind of more of the same. right now I'm playing Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and I'm actually having a good time with that. I'll probably be playing more of that this weekend. But to fill in the hours of the day for the charity stream, I'll pick up like Tekken 8, Marvel Rivals, and I'll skip on the order on that until I finish Mass Effect and a little bit of Diablo 4, just a little bit more of the same. How about you, Nick?
Man, I haven't had time for much of anything, but I did mention at the top of the show, I went back and have been replaying Jedi Outcast.
Oh, nice. Are you just picking it up from the beginning and you're like, oh, see how it works? Or
yeah, well, I mean, it's one of my favorite series, one of my favorite Star Wars games. I loved Academy a little bit more, but I just wanted to go back and like relive the jankiness and the caked up Kyle Katarn figures. Just kind of relive some of the frustrations of the way that platforming worked in that game, because it feels like Kyle Katarn's on ice skates the entire time.
Yeah, no, for sure. You definitely glide in that era of like first person, third person games, for sure, from what I recall. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The one that I wanted to highlight, I forgot what I was going to say though. I had it and I just lost it right away. It's okay. Okay, we'll save it for next time. Anyway, before we end up in the show here, I want to do one more announcement for the St. Jude's Play Live. So if you're watching the show right now, the campaign address in the bottom there, if you want to capture it on your phone, the QR code is there as well. It'll take you right to the campaign details. And let me read off some of the things that will benefit you guys. What?
It's very serious. No, Ace behave.
Yeah, I was just poking at the QR code.
Oh, gotcha. Let's see here. So this year we have a fundraising goal of $500, and that fundraising goal can help provide one platelet transfusion for a child. So if we happen to oversee that goal and hit 1,000, we can help 2/3 of the cost of 1 day of chemotherapy. Very expensive stuff. We're almost at the 200 mark, and we can help provide a platelet count test for at least 4 patients. And if for some ungodly reason we hit 10K, we can help provide grocery gift cards for 2 years for one St. Jude family. If you want to break that down, every $10 that anybody donates could help provide a new toy for hospital play areas. 25 could help cover the cost for 4 no more chemo parties, so parties for the kids, pretty good. $50 for the art supplies for patient art parties. I think Blue donated that not too long ago. Thank you, Blue. You always every year you always donate. Fantastic. And $100 could help cover one cost of a red wagon, those Red Ryder wagons that we grew up with. Not me. I couldn't afford them. And then if some fancy donator donates $7,500, they could help cover the daily room rate for 2 days in ICU. So there's a whole gradient of where the money is going here. Like I said, it's one of my more favorite charity streams to do. And if you want to do one, just go register at St. Jude's Children's Cancer Research for Play Live 2025. I think it's going to end at the end of May, but they do it every year from April to May. But I believe they have other ones that go throughout the year as well. So if you are a streamer, you want to help participate and, do good for the world and for our future gamers, this is my charity of choice. So appreciate you guys who all that donated. Any last words for the show tonight?
Hey, it's business as usual, but I'm so glad that I was able to actually make it for tonight's show. It's been a blast covering the tech. It's been a blast just talking about, all the news that just seemed to like explode earlier today. And, for anyone that's watching this, that hangs out specifically in my channel, even though I'm not currently a part of the program, please, by all means, if you can, find yourself a charity like St. Jude's Play and, put some good out there in the world. Put a little bit of your pocket change out there and just do what you can to help make the world a better place, one pixel at a time.
Yep. Little effort can go a long way. That's for sure. Nick,
and don't forget to tell your friends to come by the show. Absolutely. Yeah. We love having community members jump in.
Yeah, and then the more people watch, the closer we get to having merch and for your stuff. You can buy a mug with Nick's mug on it. So There you go.
No. I need my face needs to be on something small, like for the quick bite section. Like put me on some chopsticks or something like that.
Yeah, mine's gonna be on a bowl.
There we go. Oh, we could have a set. We could have Ace and me on the chopsticks, and then you in the bowl.
It's gonna be 3 shot glasses, and it's gonna be us 3 on it. So
actually, that would be dope.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Anyways, guys, if you're having fun tonight, like I said, consider dropping a donation. It's all of that right there on the screen. No amount is too small, and it all goes to an amazing cause. Hit that link in the chat right there, and then together, we'll make a better place. So appreciate you guys as always. Let's see here. Well, that's going to do it for Class 30. Big shout out to everyone who hung out tonight and to everyone supporting St. Jude's Play Live. Every dollar makes a big difference. Like I said, we'll be back with more gaming goodness. But until then, stay safe, keep playing. And as always, Class Deus Bills. See y'all later. Bye.
Catch you next week. That arcade sound, that takes me back.
Too bad it doesn't have smell-o-vision.
Oh. Oh my god. That would be amazing.
Smell sense, dude. I'll take you back right away.
Hey, stop messing with that arcade machine.
No, I had next.
Who are your parents?